It is November 17th. I'm filming nice and early, so good morning. It's 6 a.m., which is pretty sweet. I usually have a hard time waking up in the morning. I'm not a morning person, and I would say this week in particular was especially bad with waking up. I think more recently, aside from this week, I've been doing a pretty good job of getting to bed earlier and trying to wake up earlier. Um, for years I've been a night owl, right? Like I like staying up until 2 in the morning. I just find like I have this creative flow from like 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. I don't know why it's always been this way. Problem solving greatly improved. Just everything about being productive is like shines during that time. And I've been trying to do a better job of like for everything I've been trying to research about, read, watch about just trying to be healthier in general for longevity, trying to get your circadian rhythm like in tune with sunrise and sunset and just having an earlier start, that kind of stuff. Um, I've been trying to move in that direction. My wife is someone who wakes up extremely early, goes to bed early, so it works for her. It never really has for me, but I've been trying to do a better job. But this past week was just awful. And I say awful as in like I would go to bed earlier. So, I've been trying to hit midnight for a while, and some time more recently I try to do like 11 o'clock, get into bed, and I fall asleep fast. I don't know if I've shared this explicitly before. I probably have mentioned it, but I have narcolepsy, so I fall asleep like uh, rapidly, and I think including myself, if you're not familiar with narcolepsy, like you basically have uh, some type of issue with signaling for hormones or some type of chemical where you basically feel like you're going to be like you're tired a lot a lot more regularly. Um, and I think the way I interpreted this from just the media is when you have narcolepsy, you like can fall asleep at any point, right? Like you could be driving and fall asleep, or I think I've seen in movies people eating soup and they fall asleep into their soup. So I have narcolepsy, but it's not like that. I don't just like fall asleep on the spot. But what happens is that I get tired, like extremely tired out of like nowhere seemingly. Um, and so it's very helpful for falling asleep because I can put my head down and fall asleep. When I did sleep tests, they said within 30 seconds I'm asleep. To me, it feels like I'm awake for 20 minutes, but apparently I'm sitting there like asleep in some sleeping state. That's interesting, but uh, falling asleep's easy, so I've been trying to go to bed at 11, but what's happening is that I try to set my alarm for something early. I usually get about 6 hours of sleep and I feel fine. And I was setting it for 6 hours and then snoozing for like another 2 hours, like on and off, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. So the beginning of this week was terrible because I would get that 6 hours that I feel like I usually need. I've been doing that for years. And then just like wasting another 2 hours with this really terrible sleep. So, the shift I made, and this is kind of like I'm pretty caffeine reliant. I have other medication for my narcolepsy, but pretty caffeine reliant. And the amount of caffeine I have in a day is like not not a great amount. So um, a technique I had been doing was like before my alarm was going off, I would have a bit of caffeine, fall back asleep, and then when time to wake up with my alarm, um, have a bit of caffeine in my system and I feel ready to go. But obviously, that doesn't sound great to be so caffeine dependent, so I cut that out. And I don't know if that's all that it was this week, but yesterday and today I tried reintroducing caffeine like that, um, and it helps like a ridiculous amount. And I was kind of nervous that maybe it was too like again too much caffeine. I don't know. I kind of need it to stay awake at this point, but um, I cut the amount in half from yesterday to today. Yesterday to today. It was hard to say. And it was still equally as effective. So kind of interesting. I'm gonna try cutting it in half again tomorrow. Um, But the feeling I get, just to kind of compare it, is like instead of waking up and being like I can barely keep my eyes open, how am I gonna get out of bed? The feeling I get is instead like I wake up and I'm like I just feel like I want to go do things, which is like that's all I need. I don't feel like I'm bouncing off the walls, like I'm super hyper, like anything like that. And just that feeling of like I want to go do, I want to go, I don't know, like I just want to be productive. That's all I need. It gets me out of bed. So I'm gonna try the experiment again overnight and see if I can get away with half. So for context, 200 milligrams is what I was having of caffeine before. I did 100 milligrams. I know 200 milligrams sounds like a lot to people, right? That's like um, depending on coffee is really hard to measure because it's not consistent, but like a pre-workout drink that you might have before going to the gym, if you are a gym goer, is generally like 200 milligrams on the sort of low level if it's a caffeine based pre-workout. A Red Bull is 80 milligrams. A Depending where you are, like a Monster energy drink is 143 milligrams. A Bang energy drink or a Rockstar in the US is like a 300 milligram dose of caffeine. So it's not it's not a small amount, right? It's also not like a ridiculous amount, depending on your caffeine tolerance and stuff. So I just feel like having that before I'm even awake is like maybe a little bit extreme. So if I can do 100 or if I can get down to 50 and it's still effective, then great. So now my nose is plugged up. I don't know where that came from. There we go. So I just wanted to share that because I a lot of my life, especially with the content, like all this content creation is on top of my job, right? So I work at Microsoft. It's a 9 to 5, but we're cross geography. So I have people in China and stuff like that that I work with very closely. So it's not 9 to 5. That's like it is my 9 to 5 job, but it's a lot of time in different parts of the day that aren't 9 to 5. So like trying to stay on top of content creation as well as talk about meal coach a lot here too, right? So trying to have a little side project that I'm investing my time into and going to the gym like I want and having a wife list of things goes on that are like things that are important to me. So I should have started with my wife. That sounds terrible, but um I was focused on the productivity side of things, but that's my point is that with my time in the day I need to make sure that I'm being productive or else things don't get done. So part of why I'm sharing this is like my morning routine. If I lose like 2 hours in the morning where I can't be productive doing things, then like that's a decent chunk of my day that I can't be productive to create content and that kind of stuff. And this past week in particular, I'm starting with the I don't have much to share from a work perspective, so I wanted to start with Dev Leader, like the brand kind of side of things. This past week in particular, I wanted to catch up on blog articles because prior to that, with I was talking to my wife about this. I don't know exactly where things fell off for me, but I had like an on-call rotation with work, which was that's time consuming. Uh I had our honeymoon, obviously, like so I'm not I'm not like saying that was a bad thing, just like I'm not creating content. And then I had COVID right after that. So there's like a and then I came back and had on call again. So I had like this period where I just didn't have time to be writing blog posts. So I wanted to catch up this week on that, and it was just like I couldn't do it in the beginning of the week because I couldn't wake up. So yesterday and today I felt really good for that. And I have today off work as well, which is great. Taking my on-call day off, but like a week delayed. So yeah, I'm gonna be trying to be extra productive today. I woke up nice and early, so that's great. But yeah, just wanted to kind of give you some context there. On the blog article stuff, a kind of interesting thing is like, um, as someone who's creating content, I'm very interested in metrics, driving traffic to the website, and having this period of time where I think it was just last week, I didn't have blog articles go out. I was able to observe the traffic on the website just like plummet. So it's interesting that so much of my traffic is from, I guess it's from like what I would call like blog aggregators. So yes, like I share things on social media, of course. So and I have organic traffic. So I have traffic from Google, a lot of traffic from Twitter and LinkedIn. And that's even Twitter is surprising because it's other like Twitter accounts picking up my content and resharing it. But because I wasn't posting new content, those other sources weren't picking up new things and therefore not sharing my website, therefore not getting a lot of visibility. So yeah, it dropped like 30, like over 30% of traffic from was lost from last week. And so just kind of interesting, but obviously I'm trying to catch up on that. So I right now I'm not quite ahead. I'm ahead by like 2 days worth of content. So like that's not enough for me. I want to make sure that I can get further ahead. And that's to prevent a situation where I want to take a week off, right? If I want to take a week off to enjoy that with my wife, I don't want to be thinking, oh no, I'm not getting website traffic. Like, what now? And again, like I've shared this before, like I don't the ad revenue for my website is it's it's pretty small. Like I don't even know if it will cover my domain name for the year, right? But it's a goal of mine. I'm trying to drive in that direction. So anyway, I think that's probably all for the blog stuff. Um, channel awesome, like super excited. Finally passed 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, so I'm very proud of that. I've had the channel. I guess I've had the channel for like a long time actually, but in terms of like taking it seriously, because I had I don't know, like maybe like 11 subscribers or something at the beginning of the year. Like the channel existed, but it wasn't being used really. Um, the beginning of this year is when I started taking it seriously, so it's been 11 and a half months, and or sorry, it has been. How do I say that? It hasn't been. End of the year would be a full 12 months. Yeah, so it's been like 10 and a half months, I guess. That's the way to say it. Math is hard. Maybe it is too early for me. But anyway, it hasn't been a full year, let's just say that. And being able to kind of get to 2000 has been awesome. So the trying to think of like what aspects to share. I think a critical thing that I didn't focus on, and I'm not like kicking myself in the butt for it, but I'm trying to be more aware of it. But like sort of partnering with other people, I think is like tremendously helpful. And to share a little bit of context, like the first time I had someone mention my channel on another YouTube channel, it's only happened once actually, as far as I'm aware. Um, this was not a partnership. This was someone who found the channel. It was Code Wrinkles. Code Wrinkles, if you haven't checked that channel out, it's awesome. Um, but they were doing like a feature of like some channels that were under 10,000 subscribers, and they picked me. That video doubled my subscriber count like overnight. Was nuts. Nuts for me. I mean, it was a couple hundred subscribers, but at the time it doubled my subscriber count. I woke up and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but every time I refresh my YouTube studio, I have more subscribers. Like I don't know what's going on. So my point here is that like that kind of interaction, if I would have reached out and said, hey, like I want to collaborate or something with other creators, might have experienced something similar. But I think the reason I'm not kicking myself in the butt for doing more of this is that I feel like I need to be able to prove that I can create my own content first. If I was just reaching out to people to collaborate the whole time, it's like, well, what am I creating? Right? Like what's my value add? So I'm not I'm not upset about it. And it's happened again more recently, and this is kind of on the next part. Like um, I had reached out to another content creator that does blazer work. His name's escaping me right now, and I feel terrible. His name's Patrick, but I can't remember his last name. I don't know if it's Patrick King. I apologize if you ever watch this. It's embarrassing, but he's got like 50,000 subscribers on YouTube for Blazer content. Like he's an amazing Blazer content creator. And I had reached out to him on LinkedIn to just like see if we can kind of collaborate together and partner. And he just like, you know, so he agreed. He was super excited. So like I'm hoping that I can be beneficial to him as well. But just to kind of give you an idea of like the impact that some of these things can have, like he made a post, a quick post on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I had lots of people like primarily on Twitter. I had tons of people starting to follow me. Again, like almost I don't have a ton of people to begin with on Twitter, but almost doubled my Twitter following in a couple of days. And my YouTube channel got like not hundreds of subs like with Code Wrinkles, but over a few days got I don't know, like another 50 subscribers or something like. And I know it's just from his tweet because I know the sort of average a number of subscribers I get in a day. So it's fascinating. Like the in terms of like your content visibility, the your ability to partner with people is tremendous. So um, that's I'm saying that strictly from like the metric side and visibility side, but what I want to mention that's genuinely more important, I know as someone who's creating content and talking about numbers, this might sound like it's not sincere, but the the interactions that you have with the people that you meet along the way are like awesome. Um, and I mentioned in a couple of these videos, right? Like I'm working on a big project for December, and that opportunity was only possible from creating content and networking a little bit. In fact, that one I didn't do the networking, which was incredible for me because that's not usually how things work for me. I feel like I don't fall into things, and this is certainly one where I was just creating content and someone reached out and said, "I'd like you to do this. I'd like you to work on this project." Um and it was the opportunity was interesting enough that at the beginning I was like, "This isn't real." Like I feel like I'm being contacted by like a bot account or something, and then we got on a phone call and I was like, no, this is real. So that was something where, just from creating content and putting myself out there afforded me that opportunity. So I'm sharing this with you because like you've probably seen other content creators say this, but in terms of like looking for avenues to improve in your own abilities, right? If you're trying to be a better software engineer, like sharing what you're doing and what you're learning is so helpful. I created DevLeader originally a decade ago. The reason I created it was because I moved from an individual contributor into a manager role. Like I started to have direct reports. And I had been in my professional career after like internships because I had like 2 full years of working as internships, like 6 different internships in total. So when I graduated university, though, I had only been like a software engineer at a company for like a few months before I was given direct reports. So I was managing people fresh out of university. I'd never done that. Right? And I'm a software engineer. I'm used to writing code. So I created DevLeader to kind of like share my journey about being a software engineer that has to now think about management because this is a common thing, right? Many people in engineering roles find themselves promoted into manager positions and they're very very different roles. And unfortunately a lot of employers don't think that or realize it. They're like, "Oh, we'll give you more responsibility, right? Like here's a team. Like it's supposed to be a stepping stone for you." But no, they're completely different. Completely different skill sets, completely different job responsibilities. And as someone who was early in their career, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I hadn't thought about managing people. I like writing code. So um, that's why I created DevLeader, right? And I took a huge break in the middle there because, like I said, that was 10 years ago. I probably didn't touch anything for about 8 years. couple years ago, I tried writing an article here and there. I made a couple of YouTube videos that were like not, they were pretty terrible. They've actually accumulated a lot of views compared to the rest of my channel, which is interesting, but I think they're pretty terrible. And the reality is like I shifted gears, right? Like I'm trying to help more people just like get into software engineering in general, but um my point is that if you're interested in trying to grow and improving your skill sets, like share your journey, right? What you are learning is going to be helping other people because they're going to be learning too alongside you. And like this is easier said than done because personally like I'm always nervous about sharing content and my opinions because I don't like that feeling of someone just being like, nope, you're wrong, like, keyboard warriors, like, this is why you're wrong, and like I have a totally different opinion. Like it sucks to hear. Especially like if you make a mistake in something, man, you're gonna have people all over that. So it to me it's a little bit nerve wracking. But what I want to share with you, and I should take my own advice, is that those are all opportunities for you to improve. All of them, like every single one of them. If you post something and you're like, here's a software engineering thing, and it's not necessarily subjective, or even if it is, right? If you have all these other people that are like, here's a different perspective, like, cool, soak that in, like, try to learn from it. It doesn't mean you have to change your mind, right? But like, just having information and being able to make decisions about that's really powerful. So, anyway, I do recommend trying to document and share your journey. Um, Obviously, you don't have to. It's just something I think is helpful. Okay. And then yeah, I think the only other thing to mention is newsletters starting to pick up, which is great. So I'm very thankful for that. I had asked, I had feedback about my newsletter from someone um, that I think does a tremendous job as a content creator. I think I mentioned in one of these videos recently that I had a call with them. This isn't the person that was helping with marketing stuff. This is a person that was a content creator willing to give me some advice, and their advice was keep the newsletter really short. And I see a lot of other creators that are doing these really really short newsletters they send out, and I was like, okay, like that's I think good advice because this person, based on how they're operating, like they're doing very well. But something about that doesn't really sit right with me because like if it's really short, why don't I just make it a post? Like I feel like I'll be honest, like part of me feels like if I'm making a newsletter that's ridiculously short and that's gonna drive up subscriber count, I'm like, I just don't feel like I'm offering value, right? Why isn't it just a post on any other day? I want it to be something that's different. And so what I did was I put a survey into one of the latest newsletters, not the last one, the one before. And in that survey, I asked, are you interested? Like, do you like the longer form? And almost like basically the way the questions were structured was everyone said yes. They want the longer form content. There was no answer that was like, make it short, which is interesting. So it's not that I don't value this person's opinion. They clearly know what they're doing, it's clearly working for them. But I think if I would have just changed it up on my audience, they might be like, why am I subscribed to this now? And I would feel like, why am I making this newsletter now? So I just wanted to share that with you because I want the newsletter to be valuable to people. That's the point of doing it. Like again, what am I making out of the newsletter? Literally $0. It's just taking my time. Like I'm trying to share content out. One day, right, if there's people that are interested in being able to look at some of the affiliates, because those are all things I believe in, right? Every affiliate that's listed in my newsletter is because I use their stuff. I pay for it. Um, so I'm sharing that with people. So yeah, that would be awesome if I could make money from that at some point, but I'm not now, and that's okay. But I don't want to destroy my audience, like what they're what they're looking for just by doing that. So, um, Anyway, kind of an interesting learning. And I probably will send another survey out in the future because if my audience is growing and changing over time, if they want something different out of that newsletter, I want to cater to my audience. So that's that. This video is pretty long. It's already 25 minutes. I'll wrap it up with meal coach stuff. Sorry. Um, I keep, I, this is just another tangent, but this is sort of behind the scenes with my life. I am a mouth breather when I sleep. I snore, and especially I mentioned for bodybuilding stuff too. Like I'm heavier now by like 15 to 20 pounds. When I get heavier, I snore a lot more. But I'm a mouth breather, so I sleep with tape on my mouth. Sounds ridiculous, but it helps a lot for snoring. Probably some other health benefits because you're not supposed to be breathing through your mouth. But I have this whole video, there's been a hair. So I keep reaching for my mouth. There's been a hair that's like taped or glued to my lips, and it's super awkward. So there you go. That's why I don't edit these videos, right? So I keep doing this. I feel it, and I can't get rid of it. Okay, meal coach stuff real quick. I haven't taken much action this week. That's not because I wasn't interested or not motivated, but it was mostly like the sleep thing I mentioned in the beginning. I was just losing time. So it got deprioritized. But by the end of the weekend, I'm gonna try to get my first like cold outreach email set to some clients. I talk with a couple people from the gym. This one of the body professional bodybuilders, like I've mentioned him a few times. Like we're just trying to find a time. He's doing some traveling, and like I ran into him 2 days ago at the gym, and he's like really want to do it. Gotta wait till I'm back. Like we're just waiting for a time, and one of his assistant coaches, I'm gonna try to sync up with over the next couple days. She actually, we were speaking briefly. She made an account, but we haven't had time to talk through it. So that's all cool. So cold outreach, those conversations. And then the other thing I'm working on is because Meal Coach, the way that the meal plans are generated is that the more recipes there are in the system, the more dynamic and different the meal plans can feel. So it does a really good job making them accurate for what your macronutrients are. So that's the goal of it. And the problem is that if there's not a lot of foods, or sorry, a lot of recipes, it feels like there isn't variety. But it's because it's optimized to get your macros accurate. So if I introduce more recipes, it has more selection to pick from. Um, and that way, when you make tweaks, hopefully you start to see different things showing up in your meal plans. So my goal is that I need to be able to generate more recipes. I'm going to be turning to AI for that because in bulk I can generate recipes and make sure that the recipes themselves, like I will proof them, right? But I'm not great with like just kind of being creative with recipes. Scraping stuff from the internet seems like a good idea. It's problematic. It's not consistent. So you can go scrape stuff, but you still have this manual step as a human to go map different ingredients to what you have in the system. If I use AI, I can tell it what ingredients there are. So that's the plan. Um, I started with that. So that's actually the only thing I've kind of done this week with Meal Coach. Um, it's not all hooked up, but it's at a point where I've seen it generate recipes, and I'm like, that's sensible. It's using, our identifiers and stuff. So if it, boneless, skinless chicken breast, it knows that it's this ID, like that kind of thing. So it's close, and I'm gonna run that. And one of the other things I really want to do with Meal Coach is more of like a side thing is that the articles and stuff we have, I want to be able to make sure that we can put our recipes that we have like from our system into those articles. So if you want to read more about them, it brings you into the app and you can kind of get that experience in the app. So that's a future thing, but that's what I'm hoping to do with Meal Coach. Those cold outreach emails. That's happening uh, over this weekend. Just I might send them out on Monday, but I want to build up the email and get the list together. So anyway, this is the longest one of these I've ever done. Shared a lot of personal information about my sleep. I have a lot of sleep issues, so Thanks so much for watching. Thank you for your support. I obviously really appreciate it. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.